Cara.
Hello.
Dave Thomen, hi.
If you go to the YouTube live stream, remember to mute your. Yeah.
What's that?
Stop. Oh, my phone's ringing. My other phone. All right, everybody, how you doing?
You're the one that told us to silence all our stuff and all of your things are running.
Yeah.
Hey, David can attest that you have no right to make that objection, Mr. Vlad, sir.
Being a Luddite, as you are.
Not a Luddite. I just don't really care about talking on the internet.
All right, so if you watch the
Blood.
Yep, if you watch the let's see. Or if you're watching the YouTube channel, whoop,
How do I get to the YouTube channel?
go to the Pose Magic YouTube channel. It's the one with the wooden background. I'll send you a link in the Facebook chat. Here we go.
Ah, okay. Oh, there it is. Oh, I don't know why I'm looking at the YouTube channel.
I am. Yeah, we're live right now. We have 4 people watching so far. All right, we
Four
have
people? Seriously? That's fame.
Yeah.
We're
5
famous.
people. People are checking in, so it's going to take a couple of minutes. We literally just started. So, hey everyone, welcome to Pose Magic 1-year anniversary discussion. It's going to be a lot of fun today. I have to, due to the nature apparently of how this works, I have to. Oh, there we go. Okay, I can watch. I can actually look at both. Okay, great. All right, so yeah. So anyone? Yep, someone's already said yay in the chat. I will try to monitor both, but yes. So it's been 1 year today that Pose Magic has come into existence. So 1 year ago today, we had our grand opening. Now in our chat today, we will have some of the people, but not all the people that, realistically, that would be improbable to have everyone who's been involved to every capacity. Oh, here we go. There we go. We got a couple other people. So just joining us now. 1 year ago today, we had our grand opening. Now in our chat, you had to mute
Vince, what are you doing?
Mute YouTube if you're watching it. Okay, thank you. That's not on my side. That is okay, let's see. Give me a second. We're going to do some adjustments here.
There's Ran.
There we go. Tim Hall is
Hey, Randy.
out here instead of Susan Hall. And we have Randy Shine in and out occasionally. Okay. So if you're watching, if you bring the YouTube channel up to look at the chat, everyone's giving us hellos and highs and that sort of thing. Please make sure your YouTube is muted so we do not hear the YouTube echoing in the background. So everyone can pretty much unmute your videos if you want to jump in this chat and discuss with us. There's no reason to be muted right now, but we're kind of today, we're going to freeform it. We're just going to talk about our favorite moments in the past year at Pose Magic. And one of the earliest performers who's here with us today is Peter Samuelson. So Peter, I am going to target you first anyway.
Oh, there you go. I warned you about such things.
Yeah, but we're only discussing today. There's no performance anxiety you have to worry about. But so you're one of the earliest performers to come. And I think you were actually the second performer. Our first performer, of course, was Alon, who couldn't be with us today.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
And you know, and he did it was an amazing grand opening. It was one of the highlights of my life to open up at Poe's Magic. Crystal was there on our
It was a
opening.
good time. It was
Yep,
a good night.
It was a lot of fun. That's the first time I ever met the Evisons, you know, was actually that day. And shortly thereafter, after reaching out to Peter Samelson, he performed in our second ever performance at Poe's Magic. So Peter, want to talk about some of your memories from Poe's Magic Theater a year ago today?
So, you know, it's hard to believe that it's a year ago and all that's happened since then. This is a time when, starting a couple years back, when the magic world was flourishing, where there were these new venues that were popping up all around the country. You know, Poe's was suddenly appearing, and you reached out to me a little over a year ago and said, we're doing this thing. And I went, yay. And it was so exciting to think about this idea that there was going to be another venue so close to home here. We have, obviously, in New York, we had Monday Night Magic, and then, you know, then there was Speakeasy Magic that Todd got going, that was happening at the McKittrick Hotel. There were other shows. Obviously, Dan White's got the show. I mean, there's a bunch of things. You know, Derek Delgadio had a show in New York City, and out on the West Coast, you had Jeff Hobson's opening up Marvin's. It's happening up there. The Magic Cabaret and Santa Barbara's going up. There's Blackheart's Theater. But Vince, you know, you were really right on the cusp of this a year ago, where you got this up and running fast. Now, I know that this was not fast for you to get up and running. I know you had worked on this for a good year or so, at least, looking for both venues, trying to find locations, trying to find the right place for it, and a hotel that would be cooperative with you and that would actually want to, a hotel and a venue that could see the value of what you were bringing to them. And it's so exciting that you were able to do that. And I'm so thankful for you to bring me down. This is one shot that I had. This was there in the beginning when we had, it wasn't a huge crowd, but it was an enthusiastic crowd, you know, and there are a bunch of people that I recognize in there, you know. Chip and Grace Denman are in that shot, and there are a whole bunch of folks that are in there. Some of our local folks there. Hey, Tim, that could well be you in there. Yeah, so there's a bunch of folks, and so Vince, you might want to sort of point them out and see the folks that are
Yeah,
in
a lot
there,
of so there's a few people in this room that were there since the beginning, the very first day grand opening. That's Dan and Kat Eckhart and Tim Hall, and Dave. You were there on the opening day as well. I remember correctly. Yep, and Crystal was there, of course. They are for our grand opening. And so, what are some thoughts from you guys on the very first day? Tim, do you want to open up with that? Tim, Mr. Hall.
Vince, you talking to me?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm having a little technical here. Finally, we're up. No, thanks, Vince. Thanks for inviting me. It was exciting watching Peter. It was very exciting to have that first night and theater here in Baltimore devoted to magic. And Peter did a fantastic job. And I know, Vince, you put a lot of work into it. We spent probably 6 hours setting up that first night. So that was a lot of energy. But I think we had a great audience, and it was very exciting times. So, yeah.
Yep. And how about you, Crystal?
So the first show that I was at was the Alon's show, and it was just like, we were there for like a couple hours before it opened, just to kind of help set up. And honestly, like, the atmosphere of the entire venue and like everything that you had set up to like make guests feel like it was a grand spectacle, like, it was just a lot of fun, and there's a lot of energy, and like everybody that attended was just super enthusiastic about being there. And I'm stoked that like we can be celebrating an anniversary of something that was it's just such a cool project. So yeah.
So a couple of friends I made 1 year ago was the Eckarts. So that was the first time we ever. Well, actually, we met in May earlier for your seance shows, and
Right.
you know, and then you got to meet everyone and kind of get into the team there and the group that we're putting together. So what are your thoughts of the night? You've actually come a long way since then. You've performed at Pose yourself several times.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was hard to, at that time, imagine that we would be doing so much with the venue moving forward. It was just that night was kind of a big spectacle kind of evening. I wasn't super familiar with the world of magic, so it was fun to come in and meet everyone and see individuals. And some people I had read about and knew, and they were like, oh, they're sitting right in front of us. And then later to be friends with those people who are sitting right in front of us. That was, to me, what really spoke to the promise of Pose and what Pose has been about, has been not just a venue to show up and perform at, but a venue where you meet people and develop these friendships. And now here we are a year later, having all been there, and we all obviously keep in contact. And it's hard to find that in another venue.
I can definitely agree with that. Like it's kind of cool to be like, oh, is that really? It is. And then you're friends with that person and you're just like, oh, well, yeah, I was starstruck and now we're just really good friends and it's a really cool relationship.
It's one of the best things, actually, Crystal, about working, about having smaller venues like this and venues scattered around the country, is that certainly, and I know David can talk to this as well, that when you come into a town and you come into a place where you've not spent a lot of time, where you're new, and there's a whole community that exists there, that you are now invited into that community. And we feel so fortunate just to be able to meet people and to be able to develop new friendships and find new people that we just, know about. It's expanded our world in a great way. And, it's thanks to David that I ended up at Pose, because I know that Mr. Parr had very kindly said to Vince, oh, you should talk to Peter about this.
Yep. It's my fault. I'm to blame.
And another person there from the very beginning has been super helpful behind the scenes was Dave Thomen, of course, who's in the down there. So Dave, what were your thoughts on the
In fact, I
opening?
want to correct myself. I was not at Alon's opening night.
But you were at Peter's.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, I'm very excited. In fact, I'm going to speak a moment on behalf of the Brotherhood here in Baltimore, Magicians, because New York and DC has always been the centers for magic. And it wasn't until Vince came in to Baltimore. And I'm close friends with Tim Hall. Tim Hall convinced me 15 years ago to get into the art full time. Thank you, Tim. And when Tim was working with Vince, I was very envious. Are you all hearing me okay?
Yeah, wonderful.
I'm having some mic issues, which is why I'm a little further back. And my daughter, Sarah, here at the house, she's been using some type of new face filter. So if I have to use a new microphone or face filter during this interview, I just thought I would add a little Axtel to the mix here. Anyway, but I saw Peter, and to know that you were in town, I actually brought a young magician I've been mentoring for 5 years, Timothy Carver, just turned 21. And he's really a close-up cardistry guy, and he doesn't really believe in theater. And when he saw your show, Peter, it really opened his eyes to the world of magic. And then David Parr, to see the routine you do on Full Us, where you do all this mystery shit, and then you just ring a bell there, and it's the best routine. The simple, it's KISS, it's simple, and to see that you were coming into town, and then Randy follows it up. Vince, kudos to you. Really.
Thank you.
I feel honored to wear these glasses in the honor of Peter. And since the new virtual world, I have to let you all know that I had to create a wizard's workshop. But please don't tell the unemployment office of Maryland about that. You didn't hear that here.
So the the year went on, and July of that year we had David Parr, of course, good segue there, come in and perform at Pose. So what are your thoughts about your performance night, your very first time at Pose Theater in Baltimore in July of 2019?
Well, I had a great time. I you know, I grew up in theater. That's my background, is as an actor and a director in theater. And so theaters always feel like home to me. And so performing in a place like Poe's Magic was, you know, like an ideal scenario for me. Part of it is that I'm a control freak, and I like to have complete control over what my audience experiences when the context in which they experience my work. And theater affords me that level of control from the time the audience walks in to the time they leave. And I remember the audience being very, very enthusiastic and very engaged. And we did a special VIP show after the main show. After I did my Cabinet of Curiosity show, we did a VIP show, like a close-up show for people who had bought VIP tickets. And that show could have gone on for ages. Everybody seemed to like be having such a good time, including me. It seemed like they would have just stayed for another hour just to hang out and have fun. So that's always great. And that's one of the things I've always appreciated about the theater is you can form a relationship with people, a connection with them in a very short time. And it's easier to establish that bond in a theater. And so yeah, it was fantastic.
I actually, on that note, I have something to say, which is that, you know, a lot of the people that have come into Pose, like I do know from various conventions, and that tends to be one of the only times that we get to see each other perform and whatnot. And, you know, working like at a convention, it's always like a smaller portion of what your show would normally be. It's always like, oh, this is my favorite piece or my new piece or whatever. And I really appreciate that Pose has been able to basically bring in this community from all over the world, and we get to see our friends, our family, put their show out the way that they imagined it. Like we can see the entire show instead of the smaller portable version that we would see at conventions. And that's been a major thing for me, because I know so many people are so inspiring, and you know, the only time I can see them is, like I said, conventions or maybe on Facebook or YouTube. And it's just nice to be immersed in it, see the full show, see, like, be there, you know. And that has been my favorite thing by far, is just finally getting to feel people's shows like in person, and it's because of Pose. So thank you for that, Vince.
Thank you. Yeah, all these comments mean a lot to me. It really, you know, it really does. And then the July came and went. David Parr did a great job. Peter did a great job back in June. And then we go into the fall, and we come across the second year of Bizarre Hauntings, a storytelling and bizarre magic conference. All right, around this time also, the Eckarts have more of a presence at Pose, and Dan started doing ghost tours, you know, at the Lord Baltimore Hotel and Poe's gravesite. And we started also getting more involved with the Edgar Allan Poe House, which it's the first time I'm officially announcing it publicly. I think some of you noticed already, I'm actually on the board of directors of the Poe House in Baltimore. So this is the first time it's out there in the Ethernet, the ether that is the internet. So, and then so Bizarre Hauntings comes along, and we have our international performers coming in, and Vlad makes his appearances in the month of October and September with his spooky magic in October. But before we get to Vlad, because that's like a whole month and a half there, let's go to Paul Voodini, who made his first appearance at Pose at the Bizarre Hauntings conference. with
Yeah,
Max?
certainly did. And well, memories of that that weekend. I have so many amazing memories of that weekend. First of all, arriving at the Lord Baltimore Hotel and sort of falling in love with this sort of old school hotel, the kind of hotel that you tend not to find so much these days. A real sort of shining vibe to it, you know, the sort of the long corridors, a venue with a lot of history and atmosphere. So that was great.
An elevator full of blood.
That's right. Yes. And
Yeah.
and the little boy on the bike was a nice touch, I thought. and of course, it was the first time that I did the show with Max, the show that at the time was called Recollections of a Society Clairvoyant. It's been renamed Kindred Spirits, which is a far punchier title, I think, and sort of captures the vibe of the show. And so it was, I was very excited to be doing that show, but quite nervous as well, because it was the first time I had done a show like that, a proper show where I was playing a character. Previously, I'd always just been me, you know, Mr. Joviality in the front of an audience doing my shit. This is the first time I had to sort of play a role. I was working alongside a professional actor who knows her stuff, and, you know, is a phenomenal performer. And so I sort of had to up my game quite considerably, but had an absolute ball. I mean, the rush after finishing, you know, once the show was over, the rush was intense, you know, to have actually performed that show. Yeah, it was just out and out an amazing experience. And then following the show, of course, the same night we did the seance, which I don't know if anybody remembers, but that was a lot of fun as well. And so all in all, just you know, one of those nights that you remember for the rest of your life. I think it's fair to say that it really was a life-changing night in many ways for me.
Yeah, the show was fantastic, Paul, and you and Max have such great chemistry together. I mean, and that's part of the key of it, is finding someone who really is able to play off you on stage, and it was really wonderful to see.
Yeah, I'd wanted to do a two-person telepathy act for a long time, you know, to be one of those sort of ideas that sort of percolates in your mind. And I'd read that, you know, everybody who does a two-person act always says the biggest obstacle is finding the right person to do the show with.
The right partner. Yeah.
The right partner, the rest is easy. And I'm sure the Eckharts would echo that sentiment. So as soon as I met Max, we were sort of introduced to each other by a mutual friend, and we sort of hit it off straight away. And I knew straight away that she was the perfect person to play this role, to play this character in the show. And yeah, it makes my job so much easier, you know, knowing that I can rely on her, don't have to worry about her. You know, she's a consummate professional. Anything that happens out there on stage, she's got it covered, you know. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yep, and then finally we get to once we've covered the and thank you, Paul, for that. Those kind words.
And thanks to you, Vince, for taking us out. You know, because that was the show's debut. So thank you for having the confidence in us to you know, get us out there, put us in front of an audience, and so thank you for having the faith in us, and thank you for putting, you know, the convention on.
I believe in you, Paul Voodini.
Thank you.
So now we move on to the rest of September, and I think at this point you'd already been to Pose as a guest, and Vlad, and also at Bizarre Hauntings, of course. You'd helped me out a lot behind the scenes. I can't put enough emphasis in thanking Vlad for that. A lot of people don't know how much he's actually contributed to promoting the Bizarre Hauntings conference. And then also coming up in the month of October was Dave Thomen's first chance to perform at Pose Magic. For the month of Halloween promotion, Spooky Magic, and one of the quintessential spooky magic performers I know is the Gothic Magic of Vlad. So what are your favorite thoughts and memories of your time at Pose, not to mention the Poe Festival as well?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've had the benefit of working with you on a number of occasions, all the way from the wilds of Mattoon to murder mysteries at seafood restaurants. you know, and then Bizarre Hauntings 1 in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and then Bizarre Hauntings 2, and then yeah, you dragged me into it. That was a great experience, actually being able to perform at the Poe House itself, and then go directly from the Poe House to the Poe Festival, and then right after that back to Poe's Magic. So it was a long weekend or week that we were there, but it was fantastic. It was sort of something strange and spooky happening all the time, and we could have probably done without like sort of the dragged in wedding party at the last moment, but the rest of the audience was fantastic. But you know, we take what we can do. Like when we don't select our audience selects us.
Yeah, what Vlad is coming from is that we had a young lady who had seen him or seen some magic shows earlier that month, and had gotten the idea. It was all storytelling performance up to that point for that month, and they had seen a couple of the shows. I think they saw Dave's and mine, and maybe gone on the Eckhart's ghost tour. And they brought a group in there expecting, well, she was expecting more of the same, but she didn't tell the rest of the group that it was a spooky gothic magic show. She just said magic show, and they're expecting card tricks and you know, which is, you know, that's what they're expecting. They're expecting classic magic of that sort, and he got Vlad instead. So it was,
they were expecting like happy, cheerful Vince, and the Undertaker walked in. And,
that's right. Yeah. So
that would be called a bat and switch.
yeah, that's it.
That's oh, bat and switch. Yeah. Dave, we've been hanging out too much. That's one of my jokes, I think.
Yeah. But I mean, all the experiences there have been
Get
great.
out of here, Dave.
Fantastic hotel. Great people, great area. Like the hotel couldn't be more helpful and cheerful and sort of a positive environment to be around to perform in.
I was there with that wedding, and to see how quickly you guys orchestrated the turnaround. You've had challenges, many shows with this, you know, the hotel obviously having other events.
Yeah.
Yep. It was there was a situation in which where we were originally supposed to perform, and this happened a couple of times. We're going to perform in the larger Versailles room. I think Tim actually has a story with that too. We were supposed to perform in the larger Versailles room. At the last minute, they're like, well, actually, I hate to bring it to you, Vince, but there's a better paying event. There. So you can't, can you go back to the theater? So it's, so imagine and I wish Paul Prater was here. Paul couldn't make it today due to a previous engagement, but but he was actually forcibly moved from one area to another. So Tim, do you want to tell your story real quick?
Yeah, sure. So Vince told me that, can everybody hear me right? Yeah, good. So Vince said we're not going to be in the main theater, and you know, the main theater is a great room because it's a theater. You got the pitch seats and stuff like that. And he said you're going to be in a ballroom, which there's always a lot of variables in ballrooms, and we're going to be in the Versailles room. And so, like David Parr, I like to control everything, and Dave Thomen too. We all, as magicians, we like to control things. So I went down to the Versailles room, and this was a couple nights beforehand, and I took all the pictures of it. And it was somewhat of a challenging room because on the two ends, it was wall to ceiling mirrors. And Vince and I talked about, you know, I said, well, let's put me in the middle of the room. And, you know, it was going to be different, but we were going to adapt. And then I think the day of the event, Vince, I think it was the day or maybe the night before, but he said, oh, by the way, the hotel has told us that we have a better paying gig here. So we're going to move you up to was it the 13th floor, Vince, or the 23rd or something?
The 23rd, yeah. It was
23rd floor, which is challenging as a performer because now I have no idea what that room looks like. And two is part of the sales for Poe's Magic is getting some of those last minute people to come to the show. And if you got to get them to get into an elevator and go all the way up to the 23rd floor, diminishing chances of that. But we ended up
on the 19th floor is where we ended up.
Yeah, 19th floor. So I ended up going out to that day and getting some posters made, just big, like 2 foot by 3 foot, saying show tonight, and it had my picture and the time. And I put that in the lobby. Vince and I put that in the lobby. And we ended up having 45 people for the performance up on the 13th, was the 19th floor.
19th.
I forget what the room was called. And it was a really challenging day. A lot of challenges that happened that day. They completely closed the road in front of the hotel, and then they closed Lombard Street, which is the main cross street. So there was really no way to get there. You had to park about a good block and a half away and walk down to the hotel. So I thought this is not a good sign. But it ended up, we had a great turnout, and the room was really long. Not pitch seating, but I brought a background, which I think was really helpful. And again, we had 45 people there, and it was exciting because we had about, I'd say about 13 VIP sales. And I brought in about 22 people that were neighbors and friends, and they knew that I was an entertainer and magician, but they never got to see me perform. Most of my events are private events or corporate events, so I can't really invite people. So that was really nice to have them turn out with all these challenges. But I guess the thing there is just that you just have to be flexible. And I love seeing a venue and knowing about a venue before I go into it. And this was one where I didn't see the venue until a couple hours before the performance.
Yeah. So thank you, Tim. It's stories like that are just, resonate in your memory. And so October goes by, November comes up, and we have Strangelove performing at December, actually, right? December, was it? Yeah, December. So November comes by, and we have Strangelove, Crystal and Christopher come in and perform at Pose Magic. And it's one of my favorite pictures ever was taken with Crystal bringing Chris back to life from his plastine form. So.
Oh yeah, well, because they had decorated the whole hotel with all these. I think there was local artists that had done Christmas trees, and then there were nutcrackers everywhere. So we decided to put one of the nutcrackers that was on the mezzanine in the room with us, and it just happened to look a lot like Chris with the curly ginger mustache, and so we had him in the back of the show. But yeah, no, so our show was a little bit smaller, but anybody who's put on a December show knows the struggles of trying to get people in. But the people that did come in, they were just most of them had not been to Pose yet, and when they got there, they were just super enthusiastic about the fact that Pose was there, and they were happy with the show, and they were super excited to come back. And some of them ended up following me on social media and just asking about when Pose, who's coming up and how they could connect more. And so I don't know, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so Randy had some technical difficulties, so he can't make it into the Zoom meeting for some reason. I think it's his equipment on his side. So hopefully he can jump in at some point.
Vince?
Yes. Yeah.
So I just wanted to say one last memory before we move on from my event was also celebrating having a toast to my wife for our wedding anniversary, because it was the night before our anniversary, and she is a wonderful partner because I'm never home for her birthday. Her birthday is December 13th, and I'm always working. And so anyway, here we are a Saturday night before our anniversary, and we're doing something, of course, which is magic. And at the end of the night, I had brought in champagne, and Vince and I and myself, we had a toast to my wife, Susan, and we gave everybody a glass of champagne. So that was a really fun memory that I'll always cherish.
Yeah, I agree. That was wonderful. It was a beautiful moment, very touching. A lot of great photographs taken from that as well. And for those who are watching, please tune in later on. I will have a video up on the Pose Magic YouTube channel that'll have a collage of all the photographs taken in the past year. I've done a couple of videos like that so far, but this is going to be a great big one with some extra video pictures added to it. So we go through December, and January comes up, and Paul comes back again.
Yeah,
So,
like a bad penny.
so Paul's back again. And we're going to come back to that in a second, but then February rolls in, and we have Cara and Christopher Taylor the same day performing that great weekend. It was one of my favorite weekends to have them there. They're two of my favorite people now, and yeah, and she did this amazing black magic routine. If I could, it's okay to say that. I'm not sure, but it was
Yes.
Okay, good. Very wonderful routine. And Cara, what are your favorite memories? You had some friends visiting from Louisiana as well too that weekend.
Well, one was someone that was a friend for a number of about 8-9 years, and the other person I didn't know, but they'd seen, well, one of them had seen me work and wanted to see me again. So I said, oh, okay, we're just going to fly up to Baltimore, which to me sounded like a great trial to do because it's a flight, but partly not a problem. It was so lovely to see them. But the weekend was two things. First of all, I found the audiences incredibly wonderful to work with. Very receptive, and as a performer, that's really good, especially with what I perform, because they don't quite know what direction it's going in, and they give you the latitude to then see it develop. And the other thing is, just with the whole vibe of it, I think that's part of what makes Pose Magic pretty special, actually, because you were just a real damn fine host. And the whole vibe was just so good, easy, and just get on, do your thing. Everyone has a great time before, during, after. Just a whale of a time.
Thank you, thank you. It was great having you there, both of you there too. Christopher couldn't make it today. He had a previous engagement, but he wanted me to tell everyone hi and sorry you couldn't make it. Christopher Taylor, of course. And I do want to round back again to the Eckharts, who have been so incredibly involved at Pose Magic. They're definitely part of the Pose family, for sure. Adopted orphans who have come by, made a name of themselves. In the magic community, are up and coming performers in the magic community and come a long way in just a year's time. Extraordinary leaps and bounds. So I'd like to hear from both Dan and Kat. The pressure's on.
Yeah.
So your favorite memories from the past year.
It sounds like such a silly cop-out, but there are so many because, like I said at the beginning, it was just the opportunity to meet so many people and forge these friendships, and even outside of that, exposure to things you've always been interested in, or that I've always been interested in, but didn't have a direct pipeline towards. Like seeing a Chris and Crystal show was just something that I've always been interested in. It was on the periphery of my experience, but it wasn't something I'd ever seen presented in such a dynamic way, in such a fun way. We were there for that show, and it was like everybody was, it was a smaller group, but they were all just so into it. And a lot of that was just the force of your personality and the wonderful venue. But then getting some time just to be behind the scenes and see the production side of it, and how the production really evolved over time. First starting out with massive immersive production, and then later moving into more streamlined and efficient production of each event. And it was fun to watch that evolution happen. I'm also lucky because I'm so close. I live around the Baltimore area, so I know when Cara and Christopher came in, I was close enough that we got to come down, and I was able to hang out with you for the day before your show and just get to talk and learn more about who you were as a performer, as opposed to who I see on stage and how your decisions impact what you're doing. So that was just a blast. And it's nice to be able to perform for such great people too. So.
there's a sense in which it's like vaudeville somehow came back. You know, the idea of these small venues and a sort of circuit around the US is something that vanished with the vaudeville era, and then we had this sort of mini renaissance of it with these small venues popping up all over, creating this kind of circuit for magicians to perform across the country. And that's an amazing thing. That's so rare to have something like that sort of come back after so long. And the fantastic thing that does is that through those kinds of places and people getting to experience magic in a live setting, it creates an educated audience. It creates an audience that understands that there's a wide variety of styles and approaches to magic, that it's not all cookie cutter people in tuxedos with top hats and canes like Mandrake the Magician. That's, you know, that public image is erased the more the audience is informed or educated. So I think places like Pose Magic, and of course shows like Fool Us, Penn and Teller Fool Us, are really helping to increase the public profile of magic and educate people as to what it can be. You know, it's not going to be like old timey times where you could say, for this next piece, I will need to borrow a snuff box, an opera hat, and a gramophone. and someone would be able to provide all three of those items. But in a way,
a couple people come in like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
To say in this group, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Vlad, Paul.
There's something that David's talking about that I think is worth commenting on a little further, which is this idea of educating an audience that starts to be able to distinguish within the magic that they're seeing the variety of the performer's ability within each of those, so that I'll just give this little anecdotal incident, which is that working at Speakeasy, you're hitting a bunch of different tables, and so it's a little different than Pose in that you're hitting a lot of different audiences all the same night, and that means that the audience sees 9 different or 5 different performers plus stuff on stage. And what you're starting to see is you're starting to see an audience that's able to bring the same kind of appreciation to magic that they've done to music, where they understand that a band may do a cover. And so they may say, oh, I really like the way he performed the piece with the cups and the ball, for example, where they may actually have favorites among people, so that they really are able to say not just, oh, he did, I don't know, he did a rope trick, but there's a real ability to distinguish styles and presentational abilities and sort of flavors of performance. And it's a great thing within the magic community to see this happening among an audience that's really able to start to, you know, to really appreciate things for what they are, you know. So
yeah.
Lovely.
And I've actually noticed the language shifting. I don't know if you've noticed this, Peter, but when people talk with me after my show, and I'm talking about non-magicians, I've heard them say things like, I love close-up magic. When I was growing up, no one but a magician would have ever uttered that phrase. But now I hear non-magicians say it.
Yeah.
And I've actually heard non-magicians say, I like bizarre magic.
Yeah. And one of the nice things is that aside from the venues that David has done, Pose Magic is one of the only ones that I know of that focuses to a large extent on storytelling and bizarre magic at a venue.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
also the venue space itself, is a little bit more intimate, which is nice because we can connect much better with the audience. I know that there's a lot of people who've chosen to stick around afterwards just so that they could say how much they enjoyed it. Like, because like they're right up in it. Like there's not a stage disconnecting the performer from the audience. They get to be right there in the middle of it. And so like I've noticed a distinct difference in responses afterwards. Like I've watched after the shows when people have come up specifically to tell the performer how engaging it was, because there's that connection right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great advantage to have people feel that involved, because the last thing I want is passive spectators in my show. I want people to feel like the magic is happening to them, so that it's personal, that the experience is personal, and that's easier to do in a space like Pose Magic.
Exactly.
It's a great point there. And David and Peter, thank you for bringing to my attention that one of the greatest assets of Pose Magic Theater is just the diversity of the acts, and educating the audience that we're not all the same, and there's all different types of acts, and that they're different and they're unique. And just among the 10 people here, everybody's act is very different, which is really special. And then David and Peter, again, also thank you for reminding me about, and Crystal, about the intimacy of the theater. I just had a great memory. I have a neighbor named Haya who is pretty much blind. She's had something like 35 eye surgeries due to diabetics, and she can't see literally 2-3 feet. She can still see, but it's very blurred. And Vince, you'll remember this. She came up to us afterwards. So when she came in, she purchased VIP, and I saved a seat for her that was like 1 foot away from where I was performing. And I put a little name tag on her chair, and I said, this is her seat, because I knew she was really visually challenged. But these are the moments, and I'm gonna let Vince share this. She came up to Vince and myself afterwards and paid Vince and myself a compliment about the proximity of where she was, which is a credit to the theater. So Vince, do you want to share that?
Yeah, she came up to us and she told us she was tears in her eyes, just telling us how grateful and thankful she was. She was going to sit up close and actually see a performance, because she wasn't randomized to, I don't think she used that word, but she wasn't just thrown in anywhere, or she was given front row seats right up there at the stage so she could see the entire performance and be involved and interact with everyone. And she just seemed so grateful and thankful, and it was absolutely a beautiful, touching moment to have her.
Yeah, that's what I think we live for. It's just, I mean, she ended up crying at the end, and it was, I didn't really think that much about it, but it is a credit to the theater and to Pose Theaters. I literally put her maybe 2 feet away from where the performance area, and that's what she needed in order to see things, and she was really thankful for that. And you're not going to get that at other venues. So that's the memories that you carry with you for a lifetime.
So I do want to go. Yeah, it's stories like that have just made this past year so wonderful. It's like I don't feel like I don't just have friends. I have like a family of magicians that I'm always in contact with, and everyone here right now, including Randy, who can't seem to ever clock in for some reason for this, are now part of my magic family.
How did I do it? Like, being that this is my first time, how did
it's something going on his side. He's trying to figure it out. And the fact that Vlad's here is very impressive.
Yeah, this is my first Zoom or first ever webcam thing.
Yeah. You can't see it.
Okay, let's congratulate Vlad.
Well, I mean,
let's congratulate Vlad for making that leap.
Yeah. You can't see it, but behind the scenes, it's just a bunch of winding gears and chains that are,
the torture room is back there.
He's got to pull a reel to get the gas to go. But
pull the strings.
Well, so this is a good opportunity to segue into some of our behind the scenes stories and other things. And one of my favorite stories, of course, involved Crystal and David and myself. So we did some things that were, a little off the cuff, and there are stories with everyone here, of course. And we're gonna, but before we get into that, I want to thank the people who couldn't make it today for scheduling or other reasons. And all the people that performed at Pose. I want to thank Alandu, who's actually our first performer ever at Pose Magic. We had Eric Jones, we had Tiffany Allen, who couldn't make it today. We had Paul Prater, of course, one of our favorite people in the world. Harley Newman, who and recently we had Reggie Rice perform there as well. And we also had some comedians perform here and there. I'd like to thank Sandy Bernstein in particular, who was a good friend in the comedy arena. Okay, let's see if we can get Randy in. We're gonna try to get Randy in one more time.
I'm gonna have to go. I have to get in the car.
He gave us a heads up that you couldn't do the full hour or so. But yeah, thank you everyone. A round of applause for Peter Samuelson.
Peter.
That's right. Yeah, it's always awesome.
Thanks,
thank
guys.
you, Peter, for coming in here.
It's been an absolute pleasure to be connected with Pose and to be part of this family. Thank you so much for letting me be part here, and thank you so much, Vince, for making this happen. Without you, there wouldn't have been a Pose. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Love
Thank
to
you,
you. Love to Karen.
Thank you, David. Thank
Safe
you.
journeys.
Thank you.
Bye.
And Randy's here at last.
Hey.
Yep.
Yay.
Finally. What's good, everyone? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you
Yeah.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Thanks.
Today has just been a crazy, hectic day. And I'm technical problems and along with everything else, but I'm good.
So since Randy just joined us, we're going to wind back a little bit, all the way back to June. So our fourth performer, and he actually, I think you kicked off the month of Fool Us actually promotion we did. I might be mistaken. Was that correct? Yeah, I think you might kicked it off, but it was we had 3 Fool Us performers.
Eric, David, and Randy. I think it was that. Was it that order?
What was it?
Was Eric first?
It might have been Eric. Yeah, Eric, David. Oh yeah. All right. So, well, I know Randy it was the Fool Us for a month promotion. We had 1 month of performers, 1 month and a week of performers who had been on Fool Us, and Randy, what I really liked about your show was it was not only the amazing show itself, the aspects of storytelling, but also the intimacy you brought to the show afterwards, in which the people sat around. They really felt like they just made a new friend at the end of the show during the VIP show afterward.
Thanks, appreciate that.
Yeah. So what are your memories from that day, your performance there, and how you felt about the pre?
Oh my gosh, that was great. Actually, it was the after show. That was some great memories right there. Taking the show, transitioning from the parlor style show to the after show where it's more intimate. I like the texture of that. And just, of course, as everyone knows, the reaction of everyone, but quite frankly, the hotel's a beautiful place. The space is a great space to perform. I'm always interested in the types of space, the feel, the energy that you can create in the spaces. And that fit exactly my style for both parts of the performance. And so those are the memorable things for me. The time I was down there, and I can't wait to get back.
Yeah, me too.
Nice.
Oh, Randy, I think you're muted.
I'm muted. Oh my gosh.
No, you're good. You're good. Okay.
You're good.
Yeah.
Does Randy need this microphone?
Nah.
But yeah, so yeah, and Randy, of course, has become also a member of the Pose family. I consider him a very good friend in magic. You know, we talk quite a bit actually lately. So yeah, and it's we have a it's so great to be able to meet all these people in magic and start this camaraderie, this family that we have here and going on. I think and through each other, we've all made additional friendships here.
Hey, I know you only have a minute, Vince, but I
No,
want
we
you to
have
know,
more than a
since
minute,
my
but
family
Peter
was
had
in
to check out.
town, my family was in town the week I performed, so I had many in my family never, or a decade gone by since they've seen my show. And I wanted to thank you because that was awesome. Yeah, I had a lot there the second Saturday in October.
You're very welcome. That was awesome. Yeah, thank you.
My son's wedding, it ruined his wedding, but other than that, it was great for me.
But
Before I forget too, I just wanted to, say that I'm proud to help you have accomplished your vision of making this theater and proud to be a part of it.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, all of you are a part of that vision, and all of you also contribute your own visions to Pose, and making it what it is. You know, if it weren't for, for example, the Eckhart's good advice, I'd still be putting up 4 hours of props before every show, instead of streamlining it to a much
Longest
more simplistic
pre-show setup ever in the history of theater.
Yeah, so that really helped out. Oh, Tim, you're muted for sure. I don't know if you're doing it on purpose, but
I just said I agree with Dave, and thank you to the Eckharts, because you used to spend 5-6 hours setting up and you'd be a giant sweat ball, and I was there for the first 3 or 4 where it was a major production. So
someone has to be the voice of reason.
It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yep.
So good job, Dan.
Hey, Vince, I have
Yes.
a question. If you already talked about this, that's fine. We'll talk offline. But what was your thought process in forming Pose?
That we have not talked about that yet. It's a good question. So I had the idea for a venue where I could have my friends perform at and making new friends, and it really was the kernel of the idea for that. And I just thought there's a magic venue in Baltimore, but only one person gets to perform that, and that's fine. I'm not criticizing or judging that, but it'd be nice to have a place where other people can perform as well, especially people I know. To have a new venue for people to perform at and be a part of it. And I put out I was talking to Paul Prater, who once again wish he could be here, but he couldn't make it. And he suggested I should reach out to the city of Baltimore and the Chamber of Commerce and the Tourism Board to see if they can send out a message to the hotels in Baltimore to see if anyone would be interested in hosting us. And only the Lord Baltimore responded with something besides rent our room and you can have a space. Everyone else, that's what their response was. Only the Lord Baltimore said, we will work with you. We'd love to host it. We'll do something reasonable with you, and we'll help co-promote the events that you have there. That was the only hotel that responded with. So cheers to Lord Baltimore Hotel for doing that. They're a wonderful historic venue that it's a beautiful place to perform at. And we'll be returning back to Lord Baltimore. I just want to give them a shout out if anyone from there is listening. The Lord Baltimore is hosting right now essential personnel and non-critical COVID-19 patients with the state of Maryland and the city of Baltimore. So it's a very honorable thing they're doing right now. It's forcing them to be closed to the general public for the most part, but they're giving back to the community and really helping out. So we had to give another cheers to LBH for that with my Mothman mug here. So I'd like to thank them very much. But getting back to the comment we were making earlier, so Crystal and David, and we're going to get back to some other amazing stories. And Dan, I want to thank you so much, Dan, for that you have a great story. I'm just kidding, Dan. You can go back.
He's invisible.
He's invisible. So David and Crystal, why don't you tell the story about what happened at Poe's gravesite? And how you defiled the. I'm just kidding. Didn't defile.
I was like, don't be talking bad
wasn't
about
a
us. We didn't
bizarre
do nothing
ritual.
wrong.
You didn't do anything
It
wrong.
was a bizarre ritual in a sense.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, actually. So it was awesome. Because we got to have a Victorian cemetery picnic at night in the cemetery where Poe is buried, and it was just a really awesome evening because it was just us and there's nobody around. It was super quiet, so we could just enjoy the like quiet of the cemetery and each other's company and just sit there and snack on good foods and chat about things. And it's like,
Yeah.
how often do you get to experience something like that? It was just, and then obviously Vince was telling us so much about the cemetery too. Like, I didn't know about how they had taken the stained glass windows out of the building for the religious purposes. And like, so we got not only this like cool picnic, but like a private tour, if you will, like with, it was so cool.
Yeah, it was super fun. It's worth noting that when the garden cemeteries were first created, like Highgate Cemetery in London and Graceland Cemetery in Chicago and Forest Home in Milwaukee, they were meant to be public parks. They were meant to function as public parks. And people did, back in old-timey times, go and have picnics. It wasn't considered a morbid activity. And because they were designed to be beautiful outdoor spaces, and spaces for contemplation and stuff like that. So it's not unheard of to have a picnic in a cemetery. In fact, that used to be a relatively common thing back in the day. So Vince proposed the idea of having basically a late night picnic at Poe's gravesite. And so we ordered pizzas and we had them delivered. We found a place that had vegan pizza and would deliver late at night. And we had
to the cemetery.
Delivered to the cemetery. Yeah. So we gave them the address of the cemetery, or basically the corner at which we would meet them. And after some time had gone by, we noticed a car had driven up and parked about a block away and just sat there with lights on. And I said, I wonder if that's the pizza guy, the delivery person, and he just doesn't know what's going on. So I called them up and I was like, is that you parked a block away? And he's like, yeah, I can't find the address. I can't find the house. There's just a cemetery here. And so I said to him, yeah, that's where we are. So he delivered the pizzas to the cemetery, and we had a lovely picnic.
Best vegan pizza in Baltimore. Yep.
It was fantastic.
I can kind of imagine what he might have been thinking, where like we all walked out of the gates of the cemetery to collect the pizzas and then closed the gates and locked them and just walked away. Like, what just happened?
Not in Baltimore, no.
Sure, he got a good story out of it. You know?
Meat Lover's Pizza might have been more appropriate. You know?
No. Yeah, I'm sure he had a good story to tell his coworkers.
So to give a shout out, the Eckharts had to bow out due to a previous engagement. So they said goodbye, everyone in the chat, the Facebook chat that we're group members of. And we had a couple of comments in we have some more people in the YouTube comments here. Bill Barkley, who a lot of us know, not everyone here knows, good job. And congratulations and good for the Lord Baltimore. A lot of hearts and hand clapping in here for everyone. And someone says, so proud of you, Vlad. So good to see you, from Wendy Wild, for example. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. My other favorite memory also involves vegan food. Vince, you and I were walking through the harbor area on our way back to the hotel. And you said, let's stop in the Walgreens. Or actually, I said I wanted to stop in the Walgreens.
Yes.
I wanted to get a new pair of sunglasses because I had lost my sunglasses. And you were like, oh, yeah, I'm going to pick up a snack. So you picked up these, you were trying all kinds of vegan food that weekend.
We went to a vegan festival.
Since I was there. Yeah. And
That was really fun.
Yeah, it was super cool. Like that there happened to be a vegan fest at exactly the time I was in town. So you were trying all kinds of cool stuff, vegan stuff. So you found this, like, they were like a power bar type of thing, but it was a brand I had never ever heard of. And you bought like 4 different flavors of this power bar. Yep. And you were like, here, you can have this one. And you tore open
one of them was bound to be good. Yeah, 4 varieties.
You tore open one of them and took a bite of it. I think we took bites out of ours at the same time. They were wretched. They were just wretched.
It was like they were designed by someone trying to keep people from eating vegan food.
Right.
Yes. If we put enough of these out, no one will ever eat anything vegan again.
It was like the company had never actually tested it by having someone eat it. Yeah. Like no one tried it. They just decided to manufacture it blind and just put it out there into the world. It
may have been some dirt out of it, I think. Yeah.
It was nasty. Oil. It was nasty, and every flavor was nasty. Although they kind of ranged from, I can actually chew this and swallow it, and no, I have to spit this out.
Oh,
that was the range of flavors.
Wasn't there a vegan food truck festival when you were in San Antonio too?
Oh yeah, that's right. It was a weird thing where.
How do you arrange all of this?
No, it was so strange. As I was touring the Cabinet of Curiosities show around, it seemed like there were these vegan festivals popping up in each new city I went to, because there was one in San Antonio when I was there as well.
Your tribe is following you.
Tour dates.
It was so strange. Yeah. It was just a cool coincidence. But yeah, thankfully that didn't put Vince off vegan food forever. We
the rest of the weekend made up for it.
Threw those in the garbage.
Great Indian restaurant. I think it's going to be a posed tradition to eat there from now on. So I want to get to Paul. So Paul, do you have any behind the scenes stories that you're willing to share?
About performing at pose. Many. I think behind the scenes, first of all, of course, Max, those of you that know Max, she is quite a sensitive person when it comes to the spirits. And so on our visits to the Lord Baltimore Hotel, she's always aware of of Poe being a very haunted location, which is great, because the second time we were there, I did on the Friday night, I helped Vince do the seance. I did about an hour-long seance there, which was a lot of fun. Behind the scenes for the actual show, we have, it's not just at the Lord Baltimore, but we have a continuing drama with our music. We have a soundtrack that goes along with the show, and the first time I think something happened to the sound system and the music just didn't happen. And then the second time we did the show, we thought we'd got it sorted, everything was great, and then for some reason the sound just didn't work as it was supposed to. The wrong tracks were coming on here, there, and everywhere, and but it just added to the fun, really, of the experience. And sort of, these are the things that you deal with, and it's always important, I think, to remember as a performer that the audience don't know things have gone wrong unless you tell them.
That's right.
As far as
Never
the audience-
apologize.
Yeah, never apologize. That was how it was meant to be. Yes, it may have been confusing, but that was the idea, was to challenge you as an audience.
It's conceptual. It's conceptual.
It's
I
art.
say that
Don.
happens in majority of our shows. No, that was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Technotronic.
Well, I remember David had one of the pose signs fell down, and he took credit for it.
Oh, it was fantastic. The timing on it was perfect. It fell off the wall at exactly the right time. And I was, well, I did that with my mind.
And I remember, Paul, was it you or Max who came up with the wanted poster idea?
I thought it was you that came up with that idea. I thought, because you created it, didn't you?
I created it, yes, but one of you two, I think it might have been Max, threw out the idea of doing a wanted. You should do a wanted poster, and it was one of my. It was like we were, and I think American audiences weren't really connecting with the elongated title you had before.
Yes.
It very clever, and of course, anyone who studies psychic research or paranormal history would know the origins of it, even in magic, if you delve deep enough. But the Recollections of a Society Clairvoyant.
It was just too long as a title, really.
Yeah, and it wasn't really, and people weren't sure if they should buy tickets. We sold quite a few tickets that last week, thankfully, because you're flying in internationally. What was interesting was when I think it was Max who suggested wanted posters, and I just went to town with it. And the promoting and advertising told people, don't go to this show. Do not attend this show. You'll be corrupted. It is, I'll have to go back in the Facebook or the website. You'll see the posters we had up for that, for those who did not catch that before. But it was hinting that it was corrupting, that it was daring to talk in spirits. There was some religious connotations, that it may offend your Christian sensibilities.
And of course, the British are coming.
That's right, and the Brits are coming. That's right, the second British invasion, we call it.
Entertainment of Oscar Wilde.
That's right. Yeah. So all those contributed to a huge surge of ticket sales in the last week, within the last couple of weeks of the show. So that really helped out. So that viral marketing campaign. And I did. Oh, speaking of viral marketing, give me a second. I want to mention this, and I think I might owe. I don't know if I owe Randy one of these, but since he's here, I can make sure I'll mail one out to you, or next time we meet. But of course, one of the things I want to talk about is who remembers these.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Randy, you have one?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. Just making sure. Yep. Yeah. These. So, I have some, of course, to give out when I want to. I promised myself at this point I will only make 10 spares a year. So these are handcrafted. All right. If you have yours, don't worry about trying to grab it out or whatnot. But these are handcrafted for Tim and Dave. Do you have ones of your own?
Which one? What we were talking about?
These
what you just
cards.
showed?
A postcard.
Yeah, I have that. In fact, I used that with the B wave, which, if you recall, the border was missing.
Okay.
But I reversed it. Do you remember I showed you the
Oh, no, that's not
presentation?
this one. I know what you're talking about. These are different. So I will make sure you two get those. Okay. Since that's but only 10. So yeah, when you get a chance, send me an email. Make sure I send you.
I have that.
Put
I
your
have
address
that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You had created posters for when I was there doing the cabinet show, and I remember you had hung the posters were in the elevators.
Yes.
They were in the elevators at the Lord Baltimore, and there was one night where I got into the elevator and a rather tipsy couple had gotten into the elevator with me, and as the elevator was started to move, the young woman looked at the poster, looked at me, looked back at the poster, looked at me again. And you could see her like putting it together, like back and forth. And finally she said to me, "That's you." And I was like, yeah, I guess so.
I think quite a few people had similar experiences at the theater, you know.
One time when,
I had a lady send me a photo from the hotel lobby at Greenmount Station. Like, do I know I'm doing a show there?
That's you.
You know, that is you.
Paul, you said something?
yeah, I was going to say, when we did the show the first time during the Bizarre Hauntings convention, we were, for those of you who don't know, when we do our show, we dress in full Victorian garb. So Maxine is in a long black dress with a black veil, really looks the part, and I'm in sort of Victorian white tie garb. And we were catching the elevator down from the rooms down to the route to the floor where the theater is. And we were stood waiting for the doors to open. The elevator came down, the doors opened, and the elevator was full with this family. We're all stood in the elevator. And then the doors of the elevator opened up, and this family saw these two characters in full Victorian garb, sort of like, you know, like ghosts. And one of the guys went, "Oh my God, you're dead." And then the doors closed and the elevator went back down. So I really, really hope that those guys, you know, have this story of how the elevator doors opened and there were these two ghosts there, and then the doors closed. It was just
like the Tower of Terror ride.
That's right. Yeah.
I guess we all have our own elevator story, Vince. When I was loading in, of course, I did valet, and you know, I have a big theatrical production when I do the Time Capture Lost Magic. You know, the elevator didn't take me to the second floor, where the show was. You know, he took me the whole way to the top. So I'm in the hotel elevator with my wife, daughter, and our equipment, basically going up and down. So it was indeed a Tower of Terror the whole time.
That was Molly pushing the buttons.
So, well, the hotel is famously haunted. You know, it's one of the top 10 most haunted hotels in America, according to many top 10 lists. It has a huge reputation for that sort of thing. And one of the things we definitely will have to talk about, probably not today because of time restraints, but you know, the ghost stories there. But so Randy, you know, we have become good friends in the past year since meeting at, and of course you did the one of the TV spots.
Yeah.
Yep, you know, that sort of thing, which actually those TV spots making me reevaluate how important television is. You know, it's been a topic of discussion, you know, local TV anyway. But yeah, that was a lot of fun though, hanging out with you at the TV station, and then later on to the theater and watching you interact with those. Like I said, it was one of my favorite after shows for sure, you know, with the how you interacted with people. So what do you feel like you've has Pose contributed to your outlook on things in the past year since you performed there?
Has it?
Yes.
Contribute to my yes, in several ways, and I could talk a lot, so I'll try to make it brief. But
I can talk a little bit, if that makes any sense.
But how has it contributed? First of all, and I know I'm sure some of you other magicians here, you've performed at other magic venues, and each magic venue is unique and they're special. And for me, there's not one that's better than the other. And it's not just the space, as I said before, it's just that whole environment. So Pose makes, at least when I was there, you do a good job in facilitating everything, and it makes you feel like a star. You got to go do a little TV spot, which was fun. You had that all arranged, and then go back to the hotel, get set up for that. But also the community. This has afforded me the opportunity to create bonds with magicians in that Baltimore, Maryland, DC area. and I'm up here in Philadelphia. But just to have those bonds and connections with those other magicians there. I know after the show, that was the first time I met the Eckharts, and had a great conversation with them. And there was a couple other magicians that attended the show that I'm like, okay, I've heard of you, never met you. So it's that type of putting a name to face and you providing that space for people to come in and make those connections. And so that's something that was very, I'm not going to say unique, but it's something that I really appreciate and enjoy about that space. And also, it's this thing between magic and ghost shows and stories, and so it adds a layer of mystique to what you're going to get at Pose, because you have these different styles of magicians that will come in, and so that variety is good. And I know other venues say, oh, we have a variety, but no, not like Pose. It's a different type of thing, which you would get. Like with David and his Cabinet of Curiosities, like, wow, that is hot. The next week you'll see a mentalist. The next week you'll see a magician who's really story-based. Bizarre, you get all of that. So that diversity in performers that you will see there is very, I think it's very refreshing as a performer, but I also believe that it's very refreshing for people who attend Pose, because they can always come back and see something truly different each time.
Yeah.
I hope that answered your question.
It definitely did. Yes, 100%. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think one of the things too, though, is refreshing is that when we as performers, not only being your friend, but when I come there as a performer, you don't treat this as a venue. You treat when people come there, you treat this as if someone's visiting your home.
Mm-hmm.
So we're welcomed as family rather than just another performer.
Right.
But there are rumors that I live there in the closet. Yeah.
In the catacombs.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll get you a phantom mask next.
I just swing in from the very shallow ceiling at the Pose Theater.
That's your new theme song, music of the night.
So Tim, what other kind of behind the scenes stories do you have that you're willing to share? I understand if you don't want to share some of them.
I think just in agreement with everybody, just the friendship that a lot of us pros out there, we don't get a chance to interact with each other, and it's really nice to see each other. We hear of each other, and obviously heard of Randy Shine up in Philadelphia and stuff, but it's just nice to come down and see other entertainers and see them in a venue and become friends with them. So I think that's really good. My behind the scenes was I was there for the first 4 or 5 when it was pretty much chaotic, and 4 or 5 hours to set up and putting the tapestries up on the walls and stuff like that. And but yeah, I mean, behind the scenes, there's always stuff going on with the venue, but that's not stuff that I really have any negative memories about. They're all just good. So yeah, no, it's just been great. And I think just having a venue where magicians can perform, there's not a whole lot of, a lot of us, I make a living working at private events, but there aren't a whole lot of public events or public venues for magicians. So, yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Yep, and you've become a good friend since then, you and Dave. And speaking of Dave, who's down there in under Harry Houdini there. How about yourself?
Well, I tell you what, I think, hold on, someone's coming into my room here. Hi, Mrs. Thomen, come here and sit down quick. You have to, because you opened the door. By the way, if you wonder why my eyes are always popping out, I can tell you that's why. They want to know, and yes, we play. Tell Vince a behind the scenes moment from my show October 12th.
October 12th, behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Was that when we were down there?
Yeah, in Belmore, Baltimore. From on,
Behind the scenes.
I caught you in the spot, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Hold on. Oh, I was going to get our 2 Maltese, but anyway, Vince. I've been there so many times behind the scenes, and my favorite behind the scenes is what shows don't have something fall off the walls. Because David, I know, but see, David, we're all pros, and we all time it out like it's part of our act. That's the amazing thing. But no, you were cooperating with the hotel and what they had to obviously limit you. You couldn't put things on the walls, but we made the most of that place. Those pillars were a problem.
Oh yeah.
And you were able, even when Eric Jones, which probably was the biggest show, albeit it's Eric. We made the most of that because we were at probably max capacity with even the pillars being the problem, in the room. And you've made it work every time, to your credit.
Thank you. Yeah, no, Dave. Actually, that is
behind the scenes.
Yeah, that is. It was.
Didn't ask Dave if he needed anything at the store. So I apologize.
You haven't seen Tim. There's Tim Hall.
There's Tim Hall.
Hey.
Tim Hall.
There's my friend Randy Shine, David Parr.
Hi, David.
These are all Vlad.
Vlad, cool name.
Reading. Yep.
It is. It's absolutely.
Yeah. Truth be told, we had, due to angle issues, it wasn't technically, we did not sell out that show, although we advertised this, that little behind the scenes truth right there. Several rows on both sides of the theater had to be blocked out. So contrary to some of in the magic community, that was not a sold out show, nor was it the largest capacity show we had. We've had more packed out shows since then. But yes, the ticket sales were good that day, but it wasn't the best show we've had as far as sales are concerned or capacity. One of my favorites, I wish she could have made today, was Rika Zhang from the Edgar Allan Poe House and Museum. Could have been here today. She might make it on this weekend to do a tour of the Poe House. We'll make an announcement about this weekend in a few minutes, but the Poe House and Museum, we did an event there which actually had our largest capacity for the theater, which we had to put additional chairs in there. So that's technically the largest event we had, because we got to get them to promote for us more often. But it was not a magic show technically. But Dave, you were there for that.
Yes, in fact, I want to thank you for inviting me. That it gave me a chance to actually get outside my realm of performing.
Yeah, I mean, I like to force people to be outside their realm. It's a lot of fun. But so Crystal, what other behind the scenes stories you have to tell? And Paul Voodini, thank you for coming in. I saw that he had to bow out. Thank you for being here.
Well, as far as pushing boundaries, we were doing our show in December, and we hadn't really thought about doing much like themed wise, but you kind of promoted the idea of, well, how can you make it a little more Christmas themed? And I was just like, okay. So I went in dressed as a Christmas elf. So I had these pointy ears and a big wreath on my head, and like as I'm walking around, there's a woman who just walks up to me and she's like, "Are you Mother Christmas?" And I was just like, no, but thank you. Thank you. We're doing a show if you want to join us, though. But I also got a kick out of it because I was like dressed up as this like whimsical, twinkly creature. I was like, how can we make our show just a little bit more Christmas themed? And I was like, hey Vince, can you bring candy canes with you? And he's like, yeah, I'll grab some on the way. So we did Blockhead, and then I was hanging candy canes off the nail during the show. So I was this whimsical creature with a nail in my nose and candy canes hanging on my face.
I think I also framed Dan Eckhart for shoplifting candy canes after the show, if I remember correctly.
If you did, I wasn't actually aware of that.
I did some reverse pickpocketing with them, so that was fun. But
But we also got we got like a smaller like little group tour of like a couple of rooms in the hotel, which was really nice because we had a couple of friends that came from DC to come check out our show, and like it was just really nice that you were able to like take us around and show us some of the things that we hadn't gotten a chance to see yet, like the other ballrooms and the special room in is it the Versailles room?
the Versailles, that's right, the speakeasy.
Speakeasy.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to give away the secret just in case, but
Oh, that's all
so you guys are spoilers.
right.
Spoiler ho.
We won't tell them what happens in the speakeasy. What happens in the speakeasy stays in the speakeasy, as you know.
Yeah.
That's right.
Dang, Skippy, it does.
Yeah.
The password is swordfish.
Yeah.
I'm curious now.
Yeah.
Oh, did somebody not get to see the speakeasy yet?
Yes,
Uh-oh.
no, I haven't. Vince, next time.
Next time, that's right. Yep. The earliest, I think, the Lord Baltimore. So I have a couple of announcements to make. The earliest the Lord Baltimore will probably be open and therefore pose is September, October, from what we're looking at right now. However, we do have plans in the works to perform and reopen at a partnered hotel with the Lord Baltimore, possibly the Hotel Monaco. So we're talking to them right now. That's where Bizarre Hauntings, the third anniversary, the third Bizarre Hauntings will be still going on in September. It looks like that's on ahead to open up and be you know, a 100% definite thing. And of course, everyone in this chat room, I hope that you're there. This is the weekend of September 10th, that entire weekend, of course. Go to bizarrehauntings.com and get your tickets now, you know, for our viewers. I hope you've bought them already, you know, and made sure you're signed up. So that is,
and in the meanwhile, you're doing online shows.
That's right. I'm getting that, David. Don't worry. Don't rush.
Okay.
Okay. So, other announcement is this upcoming weekend is our 1-year anniversary weekend performances. So, we're still putting the itinerary and schedule together for that. I will have an event page up very, very soon. It's a weekend of virtual shows, Friday and Saturday. You know, our Pose Magic Magicians will be kicking off the weekend. So I'm going to give a special shout out to them. That includes Tim Hall and Dave Thomen, the Eckarts, and myself, all the magicians who help out, who've actually performed not only on stage, but behind the scenes and done strolling, walk around, hang out at the hotel, attend workshops and classes to be better, more amazing performers than they already are. We'll be kicking off the whole weekend with a special variety show to introduce Randy Shine Friday night, 8 o'clock. The schedule is still being put together. That's why I don't have an announcement. Still waiting on a couple of people to confirm attendance. So that's why I haven't put it up on the Facebook or social medias yet, but that will probably happen tonight. I think everyone's gonna get back to me very, very soon. So keep an eye out on the Pose Magic, at Pose Magic, and at posemagic.com. Sign up for our newsletters if you haven't done that already. And then a week after that, we have Randy Shine coming back. You know, he'll be doing an online performance for Pose Magic. And after that, we're going to have David Parr coming back. And after that, we're going to have Paul Prater coming back, amongst other performers doing virtual magic. If you're a magician, I think all of our viewers for this live stream anyway, are magicians or magic fans. If you're magicians and you want to do a virtual show through Pose Magic, please contact me and let me know, and we'll do you know, online auditions are easier than ever to do now. So we can definitely put together. And I want to give a shout out to Randy and David, who are, in my opinion, two of the best virtual performers currently. You know, so they really have their act together for doing virtual performances. And also Tim Hall has been really cracking down on virtual shows and fine-tuning his own performances. You know, all of us together have been talking for weeks now. How long has it been, David? Like a month and a half, 2 months now since we've been chatting it up and trying to, like, you know.
My last gig at the restaurant was March 11th.
Yeah,
My last
right.
weekly gig.
Yep.
So,
Yes.
Vince, I want to thank Randy because your presentation with Vince a couple weeks ago really inspired me for my last virtual show. And one of the things I did was I took your advice of muted everybody except for 4 audience people. And because it's a fine line, the first virtual show I did, I didn't know what I was doing and didn't mute anybody. And that was in the early days of Zoom when everybody was talking and their picture would pop up. And if they're fiddling with something, their picture would pop up. So I think we've all come a long way with Zoom, but I wanted to just thank you for inspiring me on that because, and then so one side is you have everybody unmuted, which there's a lot of variables. And then the other side is you have everybody muted and it's a very sterile performance with no interactions. So I ended up having the 4 audience members unmuted, and that worked really well. And I kind of pre-framed it like, hey, feel free. We want to hear you laugh. We want to hear you applaud. I love hearing that feedback.
Right.
That went really well. And then I think the whole virtual thing is really evolving and we're learning a lot. We have to.
Yep, Randy is a big
adapt.
Yeah, what's that?
I said we have to adapt.
Yeah. It's just another venue. That's how you got to think about it. Another venue. Yeah, Randy and I were also, you know, I would appreciate Randy chatting with me and brainstorming together as well on that. You know, that's how Randy has one of the best angles I've seen yet for tabletop performances and that sort of thing. He's really worked hard on that, and we also practiced that for weeks before he went live on his first show. And so if you know, I just want to tell everyone, like, if you're a magician, you know, everyone in here, this room is very personable, you know. So I think you know, it's okay for me to say, like, feel free to reach out to all of us. Well, maybe not Vlad, but
depends on how they reach out.
Reach out, yeah. But reach out to all of us if to me or Tim or David or Randy about virtual shows. You know, I think Dave is also, you're working on some virtual shows too, if I'm not mistaken.
I am, yes.
Yes, okay, yeah. So yeah, but yeah, reach out to people if you're unsure, uncertain about your performance virtually. Please feel free to reach out to people, and you know, my experiences have been that most people are willing to share information, help out, and make it, you know, make your show a better show. So, yep. But we have this weekend coming up for the 1-year anniversary. We have some exciting performers. We're going to have David Parr and Christian Kajical and Randy Shine and Tim Hall and Dave Thomen. I don't know if Crystal and Chris can make it. Maybe.
I did not get the info on this.
We'll make sure you're included in that. So
thank you.
I think it had a couple of people who are included in that chat, and you might be in there, but a few people reached out to me and said they didn't get that either. So I'm not sure what's going on with that, but I will send it to you. It's going to be easy. We'll talk about that later, but yeah, so it's easy enough. Don't worry. I literally put it together the past weekend, so it's not a big deal. But yeah, we're gonna have some first time performers coming in who've never performed at Pose before. They're going to be performing virtually to celebrate the 1-year anniversary. And also, I want to point this out, it's for a good cause. It's going to be helping out Doctors Without Borders, which is an international organization that, you know, that's right. It's a wonderful organization helping out people. And it's important to reach out and help out people with everything that's going on crazy in the world right now, you know, so. And it's they're totally free shows. We're going to have amazing magic, and we're going to start out the weekend with who's own magicians, you know, from our who hang out and loiter at the Lord Baltimore Hotel. On Friday night, so you're going to see a bunch of Poe's own magicians on Friday night performing for an hour to 90 minutes. And then we're going to bring in Randy Shine, who's going to kick off the weekend. All of us are going to kick off the weekend together Friday night. And on Saturday, David Parr will be performing. We're going to have Christian Casual, Joan Decor. We're going to have, let's see, who else we these are people I've, like I said, just talked to this weekend about setting it up. And I apologize for anyone who got lost in the chat stream, but Crystal, I'll make sure I resend that to you individually. But I've had problems with that chat, so I'm sorry with that. But anyway, yeah. But thank you so much, everyone. Unless you have some more stories you want to share, you don't have to, not the embarrassing ones that would stain you forever, behind the scenes. I think that's it. But I'd like to thank Vlad for braving Zoom and being here tonight. Crystal, thank you so much. Thank you, Paul Voodini and the Eckharts and Max, who couldn't make it because of something came up, and Christopher Taylor and Cara Hamilton, who was here earlier, and all the other magicians who performed at Pose in the past and are going to perform there in the future. Thank you, David Parr, Tim Hall, Randy Shine, and Dave Thomen also are here. By the way, that one finger there, if you ever come across it in real life, do not touch it. It's very unsanitary. I've heard things. It is that has recently been refinished. It was very discolored in horrible ways from what I've heard and seen. So yes, you don't want to know. It's one of those behind the scenes stories that we shouldn't be sharing on Zoom.
I poke
You have to pay
in the
extra
eye.
for that story.
Poke you in the eye.
Yep, that's right.
Fickle finger of fate.
That's right. So everyone, thank you so much for tuning in for Pose Magic Theater's 1-year anniversary chat. It's been 1 year, and we're going to have 1,000 more years of Pose Magic Theater.
Here's the Pose.
Hey, hey, Vince, I got your nose.
Sure. All right. Good night, everybody.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.